There's a time where every parent feels like they can do better. There's a time where every parent feels that they have a shortcoming as being a parent. And today I'm going to talk about one of mine. Me as a parent, I feel on the in the big picture, I do a relatively good job. I do have flaws, and today I am going to focus on one of them because I want it to be known from my first video that I am not perfect. My goal for this channel is not to present a perfect image. It's not to preach that this is the only way to raise your child or your children, but for me to grow as a parent. There's many things I will be looking into, researching, and reviewing that I want to be able to not only help myself grow as a parent, but to help others grow. Again, this channel is not to say that everything I do is right, because God knows I fail on many different levels. Every day I make a mistake, and I will be open and honest as much as I can be, because we, especially on Facebook, all we see is this perfect image of every parent. You don't see all these downfalls as a parent. You don't see the struggles parents go through. You only see these great moments, which is fine to see these great moments, but we always paint this picture that everything is perfect, and nobody has a perfect family, especially me. And I don't want anybody to come to my channel and ever think that everything is perfect, because it's not. And I'm going to recite a poem today, and it's going to be talking on a topic that I failed as a parent on. The poem was written in 1927 by a guy named W. Livingston Larned. It's called A Father Forgets. And the poem talks about a parent or a dad who expects too much of their kid, and who gets impatient when their kid does not meet their expectation. And I believe that's something that a lot of parents struggle with, myself included. I have taken this poem and updated it a little bit. I've changed some words, changed some sentences to say the same thing but in a more modern way, because this poem is almost 100 years old. So some things I just took the liberty of changing, but I will leave a copy of the original in the description below if you want to check that out. So please listen to this poem, because as a parent, I do struggle with expecting too much. Our son is 7 years old, and there are times where I expect him to be able to do stuff as well as I can, and I'm 35, so 28-year difference in us. And I'm sitting over here thinking he can do it as good as I can, if not better. And I think, again, that many parents struggle with this. So I would recite this poem, and I recorded myself reciting this poem a few days ago. But then the same thing happened again, where I lost my patience and fussed at my son for not doing something as well as I expected him to be able to. And my wife told me at the time, we don't want to put this false image of us being the perfect parents out there, which is absolutely true, but also absolutely not what this channel is about. Because I'm not the perfect parent. I'm just trying to be better, which we should all try to be better at anything we do. Because if we don't try to be better, we're stagnant. We suck at it, because you can go to church and you can memorize the Bible by heart, but if you don't put anything into action, If you don't try to learn anything else about it, you're a stagnant Christian. If you go to your job and just go through the motions, which many of us, including myself, have done, if you don't try to get better each time, faster each time, or over time, you are never going to be the best employee. So I'm going to recite this poem, and I hope everyone can not only take it to heart, especially if you struggle with the same stuff I struggle with, but I hope you can put it into action. Now, I plan on reading this poem as much as I can, as often as I can, to remember it, but to also remind myself that I need to put this into action, to not let my expectations triumph reality. And I think that's the big picture here is, to remember that you can do better. You're not going to change overnight. You're not going to fix your problems overnight. So here's the poem. Listen, son, I'm saying this to you as you lie asleep. One little hand crumpled under your cheek. Just a few minutes ago, as I sat playing on my phone in my room, an enormous wave of remorse swept over me. Guiltily, I came to your bedside. There were things I was thinking, son. I had been cross to you. I scolded you as you were dressing for school because you gave your face merely a dab with a towel. I fussed at you for not cleaning your shoes. I called out angrily when you threw some of your things on the floor. At breakfast, I found fault too. You spilled things. You gulped down your food. You put your elbows on the table. You spread your butter too thick on your bread. And as you started off for the bus and I made my way for the car, you turned and waved a hand and called, "Goodbye, Daddy." And I frowned and said in reply, "Hold your shoulders back." Then it began all over again in the late afternoon. As I drove up the road, I saw you down on your knees playing with your toys. There were stains on your pants. I humiliated you before your friends by marching you ahead of me to the house. Pants were expensive, and if you had to buy them, you would be more careful. Imagine that, son, from a father. Do you remember later, when I was playing on my phone in my room, how you came in timidly with a sort of hurt look in your eyes? When I glanced up over my phone, impatient at the interruption, you hesitated at the door. "What is it you want?" I snapped. You said nothing, but ran across in one quick plunge and threw your arms around my neck and kissed me. And your small arms tightened with an affection that God had sent blooming in your heart, which even neglect could not wither. And then you were gone, running up the stairs. Well, son, it was shortly afterwards that I put my phone down, and a terrible, sickening fear came over me. What has habit been doing to me? The habit of finding fault, of reprimanding, that was my reward to you for being a boy. It was not that I did not love you. It was that I expected too much of youth. I was measuring you by the yardstick of my own years. And there was so much that was good and fine and true in your character. The little heart of you was as big as dawn itself over the wide hills. This was shown by your spontaneous impulse to rush in and kiss me goodnight. Nothing else matters tonight, son. I have come to your bedside in the darkness, and I have knelt here, ashamed. It is feeble atonement. I know that you will not understand these things if I told you during your waking hours, but tomorrow I will be a real daddy. I will hang out with you and suffer when you suffer and laugh when you laugh. I will bite my tongue when impatient words come. I will keep saying as if it were a ritual, "He is nothing but a boy, a little boy." I am afraid I have visualized you as a man, yet as I see you now, son, crumpled and weary in your bed, I see that you are still a baby. Yesterday you was in your mother's arms, your head on her shoulder. I've asked too much. Too much. Again, and this is something I struggle with so much. I struggle with expecting too much. And it sucks. When I had my little, when I got impatient with Bo the other day, and remind you, he's 7 years old, and I lost my cool with him, and I fussed at him. You know, I sat in my bed afterwards, even before my wife said anything, and I was beating myself up over it. And even when she brought it up, I lost my cool with her too. You know, I fussed at her because even though I was beating myself up about it, when she pointed it out, it just made it worse because it made it made me more mad at myself than her, and it should never be like that. So we all need to stop expecting our kids to be as good as us. Those 7, I'm 35, 28-year different. 28 years difference. What can I? How can I? Not what can I, but how can I expect him to do everything as well as I can when I can't do it as well as my parents? So we all need to work on what our biggest struggle is. If you struggle with the same thing as me, let me know. Drop it in the comments below. Or if you struggle with something else, drop that in the comments below too. I would love to look in and research some of this stuff and talk about some of this stuff and how we can all overcome it. Because even though I don't realize I struggle with some things, I might struggle with them. And it might not be until somebody points out that they struggle with it too that I can finally realize that I struggle with it. So if you struggle with something as a parent, I don't care what it is, either drop it in the comments below or email me or direct message me. You can find all my social stuff in the comments below or in the description below. So check. So if you have a topic you want me to cover, whether it's a struggle as a parent or just something about parenting, let me know, and I would gladly talk about it if I can. So if you found this video helpful or you enjoyed listening to the poem, please like this video, subscribe if you want to, so you can keep up with some of the other topics I will be covering. I would greatly appreciate it, and share it with any friends and family that you see fit. Thank you.